The 6 most cruel death sentences in history, the shadow of human evil. Introduction. This video delves into the depths of human cruelty as it explores 6 of the most barbaric methods of execution ever devised. From the appalling cement shoe, a trademark of the American mafia, to the gruesome compound hanging, where the condemned are torn to pieces and vilified in the streets, each method reveals a dark aspect of human ingenuity in the execution of evil. By revealing details of these practices, the video not only highlights the perverse ingenuity behind these executions, but also reflects on the human being's ability to choose evil. These methods, ranging from impalement to Scaphism, where rot is induced by exposure to insects, are testaments to our dark imagination. Join us on this macabre journey through the history of the death penalty and ask, how far can human wickedness go? If this looks at the shadows of human history has intrigued you, leave your like, share your reflections in the comments. Which of these methods did you find most shocking? Comment below. Subscribe to our channel and open your mind to innovative ideas. Each playlist is a window to enriching your knowledge. 1. Cement shoe. Cement shoe is an expression that evokes a dark and disturbing image, referring to a brutal execution technique used by the American mafia. The victim, with cemented feet, is thrown into the waters, condemned to an inescapable fate, drowning. The impossibility of returning to the surface makes the act not only an execution but also a symbol of power and control, demonstrating the mafia's ability to impose a final and irrevocable punishment. This ruthless method reflects the ruthless nature of organized crime, where human life is often devalued in the name of power and influence. 2. Impalement. Impalement is a medieval execution practice that inspires horror and revulsion, reflecting the brutality and cruelty of a time when suffering was often used as a form of punishment or intimidation. The method consists of inserting a giant stake into the victim's body, traversing it in an agonizing way through the anus, vagina, or navel, until the entrails are forced out. Not only did this technique cause a slow and painful death, but it also served as a public warning to discourage crime or rebellion. The impalement is a grim reminder of humanity's brutal past and the extremities to which power and revenge can lead. Three. Deadly star. Deadly star conjures up an image of terrifying medieval torture, where the victim is subjected to a particularly cruel and inhumane end. Hung upside down, with the limbs immobilized, the person is left completely vulnerable to torturers. They then proceed to cut it in half with a saw, starting at the genital area and slowly advancing to the torso. This form of execution not only guaranteed a slow and agonizing death, but also served as a macabre spectacle to intimidate and dissuade others from committing acts deemed transgressions. The deadly star is a brutal reminder of the barbaric torture practices that were once employed in the name of justice or social control. 4. Scaphism. Scaphism is an ancient and particularly gruesome form of execution, which consists of inflicting extreme and prolonged suffering on the victim. The convict is forced to ingest enormous amounts of milk and honey, which causes severe indigestion and diarrhea. It is then smeared with honey and left exposed in an open environment, attracting a myriad of insects such as flies and ants. These insects not only feed on the honey but also begin to infest and consume the living flesh of the individual, leading to the gradual rotting of the body while the person is still alive. This execution technique aims not only to cause a slow and agonizing death, but also to humiliate and dehumanize the victim to the maximum, turning them into food for worms. Deadly star is a shocking example of human cruelty and macabre inventiveness employed in methods of execution throughout history. 5. People soup. People soup is an expression that describes a gruesome and cruel method of execution, in which the victim is subjected to a slow cooking process that leads to death. The execution begins with the person's feet being dipped in boiling water. As the hot water begins to cook the meat, the pain becomes unbearable, and the process is gradually extended to the rest of the body. This method not only prolongs the victim's suffering but also inflicts extreme physical harm, resulting in a slow and agonizing death. The idea of people's soup conjures up images of medieval torture and is a grim reminder of the human capacity for cruelty. 6. Compound hanging. Compound hanging refers to a form of execution that combines multiple acts of violence and humiliation to maximize the victim's suffering and serve as a public example of punishment. After hanging, the body is subjected to a series of barbaric acts. It is dismembered, dragged through the streets for display and derision, struck with feces and animals, and finally, has its guts and eyes removed. This practice, used in some societies as a form of extreme punishment, not only aimed at physical execution, but also sought to dishonor and degrade the memory of the condemned. Compound hanging is an example of how justice, in times past, could manifest itself in particularly brutal and inhumane ways, reflecting the punitive and exemplary nature of punishment at that time. Conclusion. In conclusion, analysis of these methods of execution and torture reveals dark aspects of human nature. Each technique, with its specific brutality, reflects not only the cruelty but also the perverse inventiveness employed to inflict suffering and death. These practices, although they belong to different historical periods and cultures, share a common characteristic: the exploitation of human suffering as a form of punishment, control, or simply a demonstration of power. They remind us of the depths of evil that can exist in human beings and the importance of cultivating compassion, justice, and respect for life in all societies. Choosing a best way to die is a deeply personal and philosophical question, one that reflects individual beliefs about the dignity, suffering, and meaning of death. Did you enjoy the video? Subscribe and turn on notification. Thank you for watching.